Gorgeous, baby. You're gorgeous.
This is the Josh Podcast Show. The anti-podcast podcast on God and man. The show that everybody's talking about. The show that will become a necessary part of your weekly mental diet. The show that picks up where JoshRolfe.com leaves off. The show title that uses the word podcast 4 times. Introducing your host, Josh Rolfe.
Woo! Yes, here we go. Another episode, another great episode, another wonderfulizationality of an episode is right here. Whatever you want to call it, it is that. I have to get down on my knees now and ask of your forgiveness for those of you who've been listening since the beginning, back when I was anti-podcast. See, now I'm anti-podcast. Back then I was anti-podcast. And back then, when I was in that more extreme mode of anti-podcastism, I was asking for 1-star reviews because that was the quintessential anti-podcast thing to do, because on every other podcast, the podcast host asks for reviews. They're wanting 5-star reviews. And I thought it would be really funny if people just gave me a 1-star review. And if I had 100 1-star reviews, that would be kind of funny. And also sort of a marketing gimmick for the podcast. Well, only a few people took me up on that. And so I come to those of you who went out of your way, took all the time. It's not easy to give a review on iTunes. But for those of you who did give a 1-star review, it is possible to reverse your 1-star review. And I would ask very humbly before you today to please give me a 5-star review. So we'll talk more about reviews in a minute. But first, I want to just dive right in to the corner of our eye problem. And I'll just dive right in. Once, from the corner of my eye, I saw a flash of darkness zip like this. Shwalakazam! It went back and forth really quickly like a boomerang, but all on the left side of my eye, which is really hard to explain. And I'm supposed to be good at explaining things, that I have this podcast where I'm talking and explaining. But why did I start this podcast? I can't describe anything. I'm going to try this again. I was sitting on the couch. Actually, it was a chair. I didn't own a couch. It was nighttime in 1999. I was watching a movie. The movie was funny. I forget what the movie was, but again, I'll say it again. It made me laugh. I wonder if it would still make me laugh. Probably not. My humor has matured so much since then. Just as I laughed out loud at a funny part from the movie, out of the corner of my eye on the left side, I saw that dark dot quickly flash around and go Kazuki! Back and forth, really fast. Swish, 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 like that. It was dark in the room. I forgot to mention that. So the dark flash occurred in the darkness. That's important to know. Does any of this make sense? Okay, fine. I'll just say the punchline right here, right now, which really wasn't meant to be a punchline. I'm just a terrible excuse for a podcaster. The Dark Flash turned out to be a mouse. I should turn this story into a children's book. I should do it exactly the way I just said it. And the book should probably be called Shwalakazam when I figure out how to describe the story. Let's do a Google on that. Shwalakazam. Google Shwalakazam. Shwalakazam. It's been written before on joshralph.com, May 28th, 2014. That's almost 2 years ago. This is crazy. I actually wrote that word before on Shwalakazam on a post called Our Corner of the Eye Problem. It can be found at rol.ph/w. And I'm not done yet. I should also write about all my experiences with mice sometime, I wrote on my blog. It will be a post for me, not for you. I'm still dealing with each of these experiences. The first that occurred when I was a young man of about 3 years old. I had a mother, I still do. I have a mother who at 3 years old frightened the dickens out of me. When we were out in a field and she saw a mouse, and I had never experienced an adult acting in that manner, and it has scarred me. And then there was another time in our house, and my mom and I woke up from a nap is what I remember. It was kind of dark, must have been overcast outside, or later in the day in the winter perhaps. And I was looking for my mom, looking for my little sister. There was just us at the time, and there they were on my mom's bed. And they said, "Josh, are you okay? Do you see it? Do you see it?" Okay, I was little. It was the mouse. There was a mouse, and there have been other mice. I've got lots of mice stories, and I need time. I need time to work this out. Anyway, we've talked about me here. Let's talk about you now. That's right. I'm looking right at you out of the corner of my eye. I've noticed something about you from the corner of my eye that bothers me. It bothers me a lot. When I see you from the corner of my eye, how do I say this? I'll just give it to you straight. When I see you from the corner of my eye, I can see you picking at the corner of your eye. At times like this, I try to point the periphery of my eye further away from you, but somehow I can still see what you do after you pick the contents of the corner of your eye. From the corner of my eye, the thing I notice you doing is you extend your hand in such a way as to enable you to see with your full eye the said contents of the corner of your eye. This happens to me so often, at least twice a year, and not just with you, but with others as well, that I can keep silent no longer. I'll also get into trouble with those of the opposite gender as me, as I am about to say something that may come across as sexist. It's this. I have never seen a man do this out of the corner of my eye or otherwise. In any case, it can be said with some degree of certainty that both you and I share this in common. We both have a corner of the eye problem. Again, that post can be found at rol.ph/w. Now we're going to go on to the exciting installment of God and Man. So you'll notice last week when I introduced the new God segment, I had a organ playing that sounded a little goofy in the background. I think it was Bach, and it was a little more on the fun/funny side, which was purely intentional. So just so you know. The man music was kind of a techno beat. I have not had time to research or find or discover any new copyright royalty-free music that I can use on the podcast. So I'm not sure what I'll use yet for the background of this. But anyway, on the God topic, we'll start there. Since we're on the topic of eye discharge, there's a lot of different terms for eye discharge. I'm going to use the term eye discharge because it's the least gross. Sleep in your eyes. That one also is less gross, but we'll call it eye discharge. It's a combination of mucus, oil, skin cells, and other debris that accumulates in the corner of your eye while you sleep. It can be wet and sticky or dry and crusty, depending on how much of the liquid in the discharge has evaporated. Now, why is this in the God section? Because did you know that the eye is pretty darn miraculous? But before I get into the miracle of the eye, did you know that the eye is capable of seeing a candle flame from more than 30 miles away? Did you also know that messages are sent from the eye to the brain via the optic nerve at a speed of 423 miles per hour? I don't know where on the web I found that, but if you copied those exact words, you will find out what the source is. CNN has just reported that Google patented a new technology last week, early May, that would let the company inject a computerized lens directly into your eyeball. Again, why is this the God topic? Because we're talking about the miracle of the eye, and maybe this is the combined God and man topic, because I'm talking about Google now, and Google is not God, no matter what you say. The company has been developing smart glasses, Google Glass. Still wanted to try that. It's so darn expensive. And even they've developed smart contact lenses. But Google's newest patented technology would go even further and deeper. In its patent application, and they say that there's a note on CNN's website that the squeamish should skip to the next paragraph. So if you're a little squeamish, just fast forward 15 seconds. In its patent application, which the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office approved last week, says CNN, Google says it could remove the lens of your eye, inject fluid into your empty lens capsule, and then place an electronic lens in the fluid. For those of you rejoining us, here we are, still continuing on with this CNN article. Once equipped with your cyborg lenses, you would never need glasses or contacts again. In fact, you might not even need a telescope or a microscope. And who needs a camera when your eyes can capture photos and videos? The artificial computerized lenses could automatically adjust to help you see objects at a distance or very close by. The lenses could be powered by the movement of your eyeball, and they could even connect to a nearby wireless device. Limitless uses, since we are so dependent on the screens in front of us, the laptop, the TV, our phone, our iPad, our tablet, whatever device it is, that is how we see the world. This could become kind of Terminator Central world where our God-made bodies are sort of manipulated by humankind and in a way that is already being done. LASIK surgery, the cochlear implants for those that are hearing impaired now can hear. So there's beautiful ways that technology has been merging with our bodies to create something newer, better, and kind of exciting. So I was doing a lot of reading on the eyeball itself, and there were a few little factoids that stuck with me. But if you do a search on the miracle of the eye, and this is not, I'm not proselytizing here or trying to advance my faith, but I do think it is worth checking out, sometimes learning about more about our bodies and what makes them tick and what makes them special. And what's incredible about the eyeball is how technologically advanced it is. Where was I on a site? And oh gosh, I don't have a photographic memory. So let's see if I can find it. It was so cool how, let's see. Maybe it's here. apologeticspress.org. Very well researched article, has sources down at the bottom, but it's all, faith promoting. But still, they are quoting the science. There's a paragraph where they quote a book, Does God Believe in Atheists? And it says, the human eye is truly amazing phenomenon, although accounting for just 1/4,000th of an adult's weight. It is the medium which processes some 80% of the information received by its owner from the outside world. Now, here's the cool part. The tiny retina contains about 130 million rod-shaped cells which detect light intensity and transmit impulses to the visual cortex of the brain by means of some 1 million nerve fibers, while nearly 6 million cone-shaped cells do the same job. But they respond specifically to color variation. The eyes can handle 500,000 messages simultaneously and are kept clear by ducts producing just the right amount of fluid with which the lids clean both eyes simultaneously in 1/5000th of a second. That was not the part I wanted to talk about. Where was it? 1 single square millimeter of the retina. This is from The Wonder of Man. Werner Gitt explains how the retina is a masterpiece of engineering design. 1 single square millimeter of the retina contains approximately 400,000 optical sensors. To get some idea of such a large number, imagine a sphere on the surface of which circles are drawn the size of tennis balls. These circles are separated from each other by the same distance as their diameter. In order to accommodate 400,000 such circles, the sphere must have a diameter of 52 meters. Oh, this is the part. In the book, Body by Design. So this is intelligent design. This is a believer in God. And it was written in 2001, so it may be a little dated, but in case it is not, and our podcast is not a science podcast. I'm not a scientist, so you can check the facts elsewhere or let me know if I'm wrong. The book says, the most amazing component of the eye is the film, which is the retina. This light-sensitive layer at the back of the eyeball is thinner than a sheet of plastic wrap and is more sensitive to light than any man-made film. The best camera film, and this is back when there was such a thing, can handle a ratio of 1,000 to 1 photons in terms of light intensity. By comparison, human retinal cells can handle a ratio of 10 billion to 1 over the dynamic range of light wavelengths of 380 to 750 nanometers. The human eye can sense as little as a single photon of light in the dark. In bright daylight, the retina can bleach out, turning its volume control way down so as not to overload. The light-sensitive cells of the retina are like an extremely complex high-gain amplifier that is able to magnify sounds more than 1 million times. Just extraordinary. I mean, this is the thing we kind of take advantage of. If you are visually impaired, then I don't mean to say this to rub it in, but what a fascinating, amazing tool we have in our eyes. And great scriptures on eyes, by the way. So anyway, fun stuff. Hope you have a great week. And I said I would talk a little bit more about reviews. So for those of you who are sick of hearing about reviews, you can stop right here. But let me tell you this, for those of you sticking around, a great way to review this podcast is to do a little multi-level marketing. Get someone you know to review it right on the spot. So when you see them, say, hey, You should do this fun, spontaneous thing for this guy. It will make his day. I have 22 reviews right now. The show has been around for a year and a half. That is an average of less than one, or maybe a little more than one review per month. Is that right? Yeah. Like 1.1 probably. 1.1 reviews. I would love to have a little uptick in reviews. I would love to double the number of reviews. So if you could, if you want to make my day, if you've just spent 21 minutes listening to this podcast, stop what you're doing on your phone. You can do it through your podcast app. I'm talking about an iTunes review. I'm on Stitcher too. I only have one review there. That's fine. I don't rely on Stitcher for listeners. iTunes is where it's at. And through the podcast, people might listen. You guys might listen through the website too. I didn't really figure in that element. But if you're on iTunes, go to search from your phone, type in the name of my podcast. Don't click on any episodes there, but click on where it says podcasts and has my show. Click there, go to reviews, and then it will say write a review. Now, my sister I talked to a week ago, she said she couldn't. I was trying to beg her to review my podcast, and she wasn't able to because on her older phone, it didn't let her write a review. So I might have to do a more thorough tutorial. If these aren't coming in, I'm just going to have to keep, because this is the way I get paid. This is a free show. I hate to lecture you on that. It's a free show. Please review it. Thanks for listening. I will be back again next Tuesday. See you then.
Thank you for listening to the Josh Podcast Show, the anti-podcast podcast on God and man. For more information, visit joshpodcast.com. Follow Josh on Twitter at Josh Rolfe. That's Rolfe, R-O-L-P as in podcast, H. Now go and have the best day and night ever. And have fun.